of saving all my hope tonight, 'cause your empty promises don't satisfy. No more compromise, 'cause I don't need you to act like we're alright. Say that you want me when I'm in the room. Then when I ask you, tell me it's too soon. Guess all your words were too good to be true. I'm done waiting, sick of saving all my hope tonight, 'cause your empty promises don't satisfy. No more compromise, 'cause I don't need you to act like we're alright. Act like we're alright.
addiction. I could say I'll quit without any conviction. Broke my own heart this time for believing that a ghost could find a body alive that hasn't seen the other side. So don't call me, I'll find something to escape my mind. What's the cause when there's no love lost between us? So burn the letters, there's a tragedy in every ember. In every ember. In every ember. In every ember. There's a tragedy in every You are my strangest addiction. I could say I'll quit without any conviction. Broke my own heart this time for believing that a ghost could find a body alive that hasn't seen the other side. So don't call me, I'll find something to escape my mind. There's a tragedy in every ember. What's the cause when there's no love lost between us? So burn the letters, there's a tragedy in every ember. In every ember. In every ember. In every ember. There's a tragedy in every
Feeling for you, feeling for you. I'm so scared. Can you feel me? I'm so scared if I show my feelings for you. Need to know what you're feeling, know what you're feeling. I'm so scared if I show my feelings for you. Can you feel me?
no escape, these thoughts in my mind. A whirlpool of wrongs, it feels so right. Fight for tomorrow, the past is behind. Take what you want and make off in the night. Young and we're reckless, you reap what you sow. Burned out both ends like the time that we sow. Faster than lightning, we're on a roll. Take me on a journey, get out of control. Ooh, jumping on the midnight train. Going somewhere I can't explain. Ooh, jumping on the midnight train. Jumping on the midnight train. Feels so right, oh, oh, feels so There's no escape, these thoughts in my mind. A whirlpool of wrongs, it feels so right. Out of the darkness and into the light. Move with momentum, I know what you like. Freedom we're chasing and climbing new heights. Taking a risk, yeah, we're rolling the dice. Faster than lightning, we're on a roll. Take me on a journey, get out of control. Ooh, jumping on the midnight train. Going somewhere I can't explain. Ooh, jumping on the midnight train. Jumping on the midnight train. Feels so right, feels so right. Feels so right, oh, oh, feels so right.
What is up, Level Up Nation, and welcome to the December 14th edition of LvLUp Live, your home for gaming and esports news, brought to you by OTN Media. My name is Fiasco, but we're all friends. You can call me John, and that dude right next to me with the Fnatic flag and the Man City flag and that George Mason Patriot scarf in the background, the king of the courtside. Joey, what's up, buddy?
John, I am doing well, but before chat freaks out, let's go ahead and talk about your camera quick. So John is having a couple camera issues today. He has moved to the webcam, which, by the way, I cannot see you in Discord, so this makes things even more interesting when I saw you pop up. But yeah, overall, John is not on the camera you guys would expect today.
Yeah, it seems like the Elgato cam link I've been using has decided to die prior to the start of the show. It was working fine a solid 5 minutes before we went live, and then as soon as we started that Discord chat, it decided to, technology. It's 2020. It's not going to work for me. But anywho, Joey, I have the backup webcam. It's going to be a little old school. It's going to be a little 2009 action, it feels like, with with the quality of webcam here. But nonetheless, a little late to the show today, but we're here. We're ready to go. Joey, happy Monday. How's your Monday been so far?
Monday has been all right. It was the start of some program registration for us in my daytime job. So that was a little hectic in the morning, but then after that, it's been a nice flow of, let's say, gaming news and some other goodness here and there. So not a terrible Monday of all Mondays.
Oh, not too shabby. Nation, make sure you follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, there you go. At LvLUp Live, that's at LvLUp Live. And while you're on Twitter, why not give your favorite esport and gaming podcast host a follow? You can find Joey at Courtside King, find myself at Fiasco. If you're watching here live on Twitch, what up, Twitch fam? You can find those handles right below those mugshots you're currently staring at. And if you're listening to the podcast version of the show later on down the road, they'll be on the show notes below. And Nation, as always, LvLUp Live is available through a podcast. The podcast version of the show is called LvLUp Podcast, and it's available on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. And if you are listening on that podcast version of the show, why not leave us a review? Reviews do go a long way, helps promote the show, reach new listeners, and gives us critical feedback that we do appreciate, whether it's positive or negative. Helps grow the show and reach new listeners. So we do appreciate if you take a small moment of your day to leave us a really awesome review. All right, Joey, it's Monday. Last Thursday, we had the amazing Game Awards co-stream. So we're getting back into the groove of things. What are we talking about today on the 14th of December's edition of LvLUp Live?
John, we are talking a number of new acquisitions and partnerships. So that's going to be a fun part to start off today's episode. We're a little bit maybe around that right now, as well as some of the positives for that game release, and then a couple other things as we go down the line.
All right, so we have our topics, Joey. Let's go ahead, and before we even kick off the show today, of course, we have to do the drink of choice. I'm going to let you go first. Mine's a little lame, but I have a very good reason behind it. So, Joey, your drink of choice for today's episode, please.
I am with the bourbon tonight, Woodford Reserve. And yes, D-Rod Ballin, the hoodie has made a return. I don't think I've had this hoodie on for 3 or 4 weeks now on the show, so it was about time that it came back. I freaking love this color scheme. The design is awesome, so repping the Xbox hoodie again tonight.
So in other words, Joey did laundry is what he's trying to gloat about.
No, I have not. I'm doing that after the show.
Nice. Well done. Well done. I punished my liver this past weekend, and I mean punished. We're talking Flippy Cup, we're talking beer pong, we're talking Kings. We're talking every drinking game that, you know, outside of a frat party in college you should not be doing once you are considered an adult. Absolutely punished my liver. I'm on the recovery method today. Had that Pedialyte, had that vitamin C, been trying to get rehydrated. I'm going with water, Joey, because I am still feeling the after effects of my horrible decisions this past weekend.
Fun fact, your Discord camera just came alive for me.
Oh,
so thank you, Discord, for making that a possibility.
Well, who knows? Maybe it's Discord screwing up the cam link. That would be nice. That would be a nice $200 surprise if it was just Discord screwing up. So there is that. Joey, we have our topics. You have your alcohol. The smell of alcohol might make me run to the restroom, so I'm sticking with the water today. Joey, let's get right into it. Let's get into gaming and esports news. Let's go!
Guys, we talked about this one at the beginning of the year, and now we're wrapping back around to it. It is an acquisition by Tencent. They will move forward with acquiring LvLUp Technologies for $1.5 billion after the deal was approved this past week from shareholders. LvLUp, for those who don't know, is the parent company of Digital Extremes, which is the maker of Warframe. They also do splash damage. If you guys have played Gears Tactics, that's splash damage behind that game, really well done. And a number of other different companies as well. On top of that, this also includes a 20% stake in Certain Affinity. So you're getting Digital Extremes with Warframe, Splash Damage, who does partnerships with a lot of different people, Gears Tactics being the most recent that I know of, and then Certain Affinity as well, on top of these other developers. So another big win for Tencent. And John, I don't have the number in front of me, but I think this is like acquisition number 12 or 15 for them so far this year.
Yeah, that'd be absolutely huge. $1.5 billion acquisition there. Like you said, Joey, we saw it coming. It's something that you hit on several times as well. Tencent is quickly becoming your gaming overlord. They essentially own or partially own everyone that you care and love about in video games. So it's just Tencent increasing its grasp firmly on the gaming world.
I don't think people realize how big Tencent is. Like in a lot of these gaming conversations, on the low level, it's Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo. On the next level, it's the Amazon, Microsoft, Google. And then on the next level, you have to really consider Tencent in there when it's a cloud gaming level. Because when you look at Amazon and Google, yes, they're putting resources into it. Yes, Microsoft already has the Xbox, which is another entryway into their system, versus Amazon and Google, they don't have that, which is great and dandy. They all have their own cloud infrastructures, which is huge as well. And that's kind of why Sony and Nintendo aren't counted in that frame, because they buy into the Xbox network. Now, when you look at Tencent, they have everything. They have social media. They have cloud technologies. They have 2 streaming platforms that are practically bigger than Twitch when combined over in China. They have a ton of different stuff. And now you're going out, you already have all these game companies. You're going out and buying even more game companies this year in 2020 when things are cheaper than normal. they're doing so well on the acquisition side, and just no one is noticing it. It's always Amazon, Google, Microsoft, or Xbox and PlayStation. No one is paying attention to the sleeping giant of Tencent. And it's just a matter of time before they just continue to just eat everything up. And then it comes down to the point Tencent has no enemies. If you look at it, they really could care less where their stuff goes. PlayStation keeps their stuff exclusive. Xbox puts it on PC and console. Amazon is going to stick a lot of their stuff to Luna with Google on Stadia. Tencent, they don't care. They're going to put it on every single platform possible, including all of your mobile phones, iPhone, iOS, Android, every single operating system, which means they're going to make money from every single one of those. Eventually, you're all going to have Tencent IDs to play any of these games of some sort. Like, it is a sleeping giant that no one is talking about, but Tencent is very quickly becoming a top 3 gaming company in the world right now. I feel very strongly about Tencent, in case you can't tell.
No, you do, and you have every right to. So, yeah, I mean, Tencent is coming. I mean, if you're not paying attention, it's like ignoring a skyscraper in New York City. It's still there whether you like it or not. Like, they are absolutely massive.
I think my wife is laughing downstairs. I just want to make sure that was a laugh. Yeah, so that's what's going on. Electronic Arts is also in the news for acquisitions. They have crashed Take-Two Interactive's deal to acquire Codemasters. Codemasters and Take-Two said, hey, we've agreed on a deal of £725 million. Done deal just about. They just needed to dot the I's, cross the T's. Well, then your boy Electronic Arts came around. And they said, not today, son. They ended up upping the deal. They upped it to $1.2 billion. And now we're going to end up seeing this deal go through for considerably more than it was originally weighted at. And EA will be the one acquiring Codemasters instead of Take-Two here. So the biggest story here is when you look at Codemasters, it's racing games. They have the Dirt series is under them. They have a couple other series as well. The biggest one probably outside of Dirt being Formula One. That's their simulation racing series. And Formula One in general is extremely popular, especially overseas in Europe, and that game sells pretty darn well. Now you're looking at that going under EA. So EA already has the simulation license for just about every game under the sun, minus NBA. NBA Live did not do as well in accordance with NBA 2K, and the 2K franchise has definitely taken handle when it's been in the basketball genre. Now with the racing, it's been a little bit more open-ended. There really hasn't been a dominant factor. Codemasters has been one of the bigger ones. When you look at actual racing games, Forza is usually the one that ends up winning the most awards. But again, it's not really, I guess, aligned with a certain league or a certain simulation type of setup. Forza Motorsport does a lot of that, but it doesn't have that exact contract as far as the league affiliation goes. So now EA coming in, while they've had some issues with Madden here and there, they are now going in and finding a full agreement here with Codemasters, which is going to be a big win because Take-Two pretty much had that deal locked up. They're already making plans of how to move forward with that one. And now big boy EA comes in, ups that offer considerably to $1.2 billion and pulls them under their umbrella. You good over there?
Yeah, apparently I'm having mic issues also.
You sound good on my side.
100% aware of what's going on. T-Spans pointed out. By chance, T-Spans, does it sound better now? Or I'm not entirely sure where everything's picking up from. But anywho, we'll edit it out.
Well, yeah. Sorry, podcast listeners. This is what you get with the live show as well, and with us jumping around a little bit. And we've been in a number of Zoom calls. It has the tendency to mess with mic volume, so you always have to check that beforehand, depending on how that ends up changing the settings around. So just a quick wrap up. Tencent buys Liu, and then we have Electronic Arts crashing the deal that Take-Two had with Codemasters. Codemasters, now, unless another crash happens, will be going over to EA. Again, pretty much at the point where contracts just need to sign now. Microsoft, Warner Brothers, and LeBron James have teamed up to inspire the next generation of innovators and game designers with a game brainstorming promotion around the new upcoming Space Jam movie. John, I don't know how I feel about the new Space Jam movie as of yet. I'm a big fan of the classic. I like the MJ in there. Bring out Michael Jordan, huge name. They did a great job with the original movie. Now to do a remake of that, it's going to be a little tough for me to get into. I think LeBron James is awesome. I think he's a great superstar when it comes to the world of basketball, but it will be interesting to see how this translates over to a movie. With that being said, I really like this partnership. Again, anything to get kids thinking, anything to give the youth an ability to start looking into something like game design early on and kind of that STEM education, I think is really cool. So I really like the idea of this promotion. And if you want, we can play this little about a 1-minute video.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead and pull that up here. Let's see if this actually plays.
What's up, Doc?
Oh, hey, Bugs.
You sound kind of fuzzy. Something wrong with your microphone? Oh, wait. Much better.
You up for a quick match on Xbox?
Yeah, I could get loony with you. Why don't you tell our friends about the contest while I do my pre-gamer warm-up?
Of course. Hey, everyone. It's LeBron. In our new film, Space Jam: A New Legacy, we'll be taking you on an exciting ride through Warner Brothers' most iconic characters. And Bugs and I have to battle and play some ball against an evil AI. And now we're inviting you to create a total unique, one-of-a-kind arcade-style video game that will launch in Xbox Game Pass, inspired by our film, Space Jam: A New Legacy.
It's super simple to submit your idea. And here's the best part. 2 lucky winners will get the coolest prize in the world. Now, LeBron, shall we?
Oh, you're on, buddy boy.
Space Jam: A New Legacy, coming soon.
I think what kills me even more than anything there is the voice actor for Bugs Bunny now.
Okay, I was going to say the same
Sounds
thing.
awful. Like, it's not even like normally they're pretty good about you know, getting a voice actor that's fairly similar to last one. This one feels like they completely missed the mark.
Yeah, is that going to be the voice actor in the movie too?
I hope not.
Because that could be a little bit of a nails on a chalkboard situation right there for me. Yeah, usually they do a decent job, but like it's hard to replicate a voice exactly if the actor ends up passing away or moving on and not doing the project again. But that one definitely feels off. With that being said, John, what are your thoughts overall on this idea? The idea of allowing different people to pitch game ideas, like a little arcade mobile game style game idea, and then the possibility of winning prizes from something like that with a hit movie in mind as well.
Why not? I mean, it's a great way to have fans interact. It's a great way to get people engaged and to get hyped up for the new movie. I mean, how long has it been in between both Space Jams, the original Space Jam and now? I mean, it's essentially 2 different generations. You know, it was Michael Jordan back in his heyday, and now it's LeBron James going into what, year 18, year 19 of the NBA? You know, like a lot of the people that are hyped for this new Space Jam may only have been exposed to Michael Jordan in his last year or 2 in the NBA, or even worse, to make everyone feel really old, Joey, they may have never seen the man play. They may only know him because mom and dad talk about him or because it comes up in PE or history class, you know? So I think it's a great way to get people involved, engaged with the upcoming movie. And I like the fan interaction with it.
Yeah. So fun fact, do you know when Space Jam actually released?
I don't.
1996.
God.
And this movie is coming out in 2021 pending any kind of COVID delays. So we're looking at a very, very long time difference here. Almost 25 years between the both releases. That is insane. 25 years between 2 Space Jam movies. So yeah, John, I mean, you're completely right. This is something generations may not have even seen the original movie, may not have ever seen Michael Jordan play, potentially outside of documentaries like The Last Dance. So this could be something completely new. And with that in mind, I think this movie could do quite well then. Moving on to the Game Awards 2020. So guys, we did a special show last week. We ended up co-streaming as official partners of the Game Awards. We went through the whole ceremony, watched the whole thing happen. We did a pre-show, then we watched the pre-show, then we did the Game Awards show, then we did a little post-show afterwards. If you guys want to check that out, it is on Twitch as a VOD, and we'll get that uploaded to YouTube for the podcast listeners as well. That's part of the reason we didn't have any recordings for you guys on the podcast feed last week. Additionally, we had a ton of events the weekend before, so we weren't able to do the Monday episode either. So now we're back. We're back to your feeds. Everything is good. But if you do want to catch up on that, it will be available on YouTube and Twitch. Now, with that being said, John, let's do a little rundown of a couple things from the Game Awards. So some of the bigger awards, Best Game Direction is a big one out there. Last of Us Part 2 won that one. Last of Us Part 2 also won the Best Narrative. They went on to win Game of the Year as well as a number of other wins. So Last of Us Part 2, the biggest winner of the night overall, continuously pulling in big wins from sound design to graphical design to narratives. overall a huge winner. What were your thoughts on Last of Us 2? Do you feel like they deserved all the awards they won? Do you feel like some were good, some maybe not, should have gone to that category? What are your thoughts overall? And again, part of this going to how the votes are attended, because we did have a fan poll prior to, not just an OTN one, an official Game Awards one, where the Ghost of Tsushima ended up winning out as the game of the year by player's voice, as opposed to The Last of Us, which also has Academy, I don't even know what you call them, like Academy board people of some sort for the Game Awards to step in as well.
So the one I have a big issue with is the Game of the Year award. I have to agree with the rest of the gaming world that does not see The Last of Us Part 2 being the best game this past year. I too would have voted and did vote for Ghost of Tsushima. So, with all the issues that The Last of Us 2 had, story wise, how it ended, the whole controversy with how the studio forced it to get done by a deadline, it just seemed really rushed, the second part of the game. I feel like you're awarding all the wrong things present in the gaming industry when you signal that, The Last of Us 2 is going to be your game of the year, because it's 2020 has opened the eyes for a lot of people into what the gaming world is really about that last crunch to make sure you hit deadline, about cutting corners to make sure the game gets out on time. And then the fans are upset because it feels like the game is incomplete, or the game was only 60% done and you're going to release the rest as a DLC later on down the road, but you still pay full price. That's one of the issues, is that over the past several years, that's what gamers have been used to. So when games come out and they feel complete, they feel like the studio took care of the game, they took their time with the game, and it's a completed project, a lot of people tend to take that into account also. The story wasn't rushed in the Ghost of Tsushima. It was a very overall well-rounded in every aspect of it game. Now, not saying The Last of Us 2 didn't deserve to win some of the other awards, but my biggest issue is the Game of the Award definitely should not have gone to The Last of Us 2.
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat. I feel like the game overall was great. I do want to have a disclaimer here. I did not play it myself. I feel like I've seen about 85% of the game through different streams for both Ghost of Tsushima as well as The Last of Us Part 2. With that disclaimer in mind, I feel like Ghost is probably the better game of the year. Again, it was a little bit more original in the way they ended up taking the story. The art design had a little bit more originality to it in my mind. Sound design, I also thought, was extremely well done in Ghost of Tsushima. Now, with that being said, The Last of Us Part 2 definitely should be awarded some awards. I think it 100% deserved a number of those. Laura Bailey, as the voice actor, I think really deserved her award as well. But overall, that Game of the Year one is what gets me too. Again, the game is great. It's awesome. It's wonderful. I personally think Ghost was a little bit better. And the other thing that kind of gripes me a bit is for Game of the Year, I really feel like that should be something that the players have their voice in. And I get it. There's the player voice vote, and they ended up with Ghost in that one. But if you're going to have some giant award like this, I feel like player vote should at least be weighted a little bit heavier than what we see from the Academy side, or whatever the Game Awards Academy calls themselves. Again, I feel like a lot of the awards they ended up awarding were probably to the proper winners, or the people I would have picked at least. With that being said, the Game of the Year, I think, could have gone a different route. And I think one of the big things you hit on as well, John, is this was a studio, and again, Naughty Dog being one of the best studios out there, but it did get known for a lot of crunch there at the end. They ended up having a big crunch culture of trying to rush this game out the door, trying to make sure everything was good and ready to go. They did not do that with the multiplayer aspects, but they did do it with the single player aspects. It originally got delayed. I think it was a month. I think it was supposed to release in May, and it got delayed until June. So not a huge delay overall. But again, then there's that extra crunch culture where developers are working very long hours, very long weeks as well, some of them going 7 days a week. So with that in mind, it's tough to see a game like this win Game of the Year. Now, with that being said, just on the property itself, it very much is award winning. It's incredibly well done. It's going to go back to opinions here and there, depending on which game you think should have won it. But as a game, as a standalone game itself, it is quite well done. And it's definitely awarding of a nominee, whether you think it should have won Game of the Year or not. I think it's definitely in that top five. Personally, not my top five, not John's top five as far as the actual winner goes. But as far as a game itself, it did do quite well. So that's where we are on that one overall. I think some of the other big winners of the night, Ghost did win quite a few. It did win Best Art Direction. It also won the player vote that we've talked about. And I think that was one of the next biggest ones. Among Us, I think, Among Us won Best Mobile Game. and it also won Best Multiplayer Game as well, I believe. So Among Us coming home with a couple winners as well. And Among Us is one of those very interesting games too, John. We've touched on it a bit on the show here and there, but it is a game that came out in 2018, and here it is in 2020 winning big awards.
Yeah, you don't see this happen that often. And, really Among Us is a product of the current time that we're living in. In the middle of a pandemic, you can't go out and hang out with people. Among Us allows that unique interaction. It is multi-platform. It is a mobile game. It is a PC game. So it makes sense. It's not a graphically intense game, so like any PC can play it. It can be put on any phone. Again, it's not a massive download, so you can easily play it there as well. And I think it served a great purpose here in the pandemic, whether it was intentional or not. But the thing is that's the beauty of games, is that a small game like Among Us that was released 2 years ago in the right situation can blow up years later and be a significant piece in like pop culture, in gaming culture, when the time is right. Like, you could even say this game came out before it was like ahead of its time, if you will. But yeah, I think Among Us, has a very significant place in society currently. And I feel like, it's deserving of these awards, even though it's about 2 years, since it was released. I don't think that plays as big of a role. Now, it does, like, in terms of like Game of the Year, obviously, I don't think it should qualify for that. But when it comes to some of the other ones, I mean, yeah, why not? It blew up now. Like, this is the reason why a lot of people turn to gaming. I mean, even government officials turn to Among Us, whether you agree with, politicians playing Among Us on Twitch or not. It brings in viewers. It brought in attention to the gamer community that tends to get overlooked sometimes. So, I think overall it made a massive impact this year, and I think it was rightfully nominated for some of these awards.
Chipmunk in chat about the Among Us comment. It replicates their daily lives of politicians playing Among Us.
Pretty much. Sneaking up behind people and stabbing the average American in the back. There you go.
Oh, hey, we just got real here on today's podcast. Other than that, John, I don't know if there's any other awards we really need to hit on. Again, people can check out that Twitch VOD or on YouTube as well. But on top of that, the Game Awards is not only known for the awards that the show name is after, there's also a number of big reveals, whether it be content, whether it be teasers for new games, new DLC, tons of different teasers come out at this show. This year's show, I believe, had somewhere around 18 to 20 different teasers come out as far as global reveals and releases. So with that being said, what teasers or reveals ended up sticking out to you the most at this year's show?
Perfect Dark looks amazing. We've been waiting forever for news from the initiative on what was going to come out. Perfect Dark, the trailer looked fantastic. That's a game I'm going to be following more on. I want to learn more about it. I know I'm going to be playing it. I love the N64 version of it. So I'm pretty hyped about that. And Mass Effect, that was a big teaser there towards the end. I think that was absolutely massive. Like, you even saw, on Twitch chat and social media, people were going insane. I think it's great. Like, those had to be the two biggest ones. I think everything else was kind of vanilla. I mean, overall, for a show that had a lot of hype, I think vanilla is a very proper term for it. It was very 50-50, it felt like. But in terms of world premieres or those sneak peeks, I feel like those are your big two.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm right there with you. The Mass Effect 4 codename potentially trailer being shown there right at the end is kind of a one last thing, was great. We don't exactly know why they're particularly on that planet, but there is a reason for them being there, and they could be searching for something there as well. So excited to see more of that as it gets a little bit closer to launch, or as more teasers come out early in the year. With that being said, that's a big one. Mass Effect did great as a trilogy, did extremely well as far as critically received, as far as received by fans. It reviewed well. It was one of those first games that really gave a lot of great choice depth as well. Depending how you chose something early on in the game, it could easily change the way the game played out later on, the different relationship connections that you could have, either romantically or platonically. There are just a lot of different options that changed based on however things were chosen at any point within that game. So one of the really cool things about that was how that all linked together. I expect a lot more of that deep BioWare story-driven aspect within this new Mass Effect game, especially now that they have more of a handle on how the Frostbite engine works, and they've had a few different changes within that studio as well. I think they're looking a little bit more cleanly moving forward. Perfect Dark. John, we've talked about the initiative so much, the amount of talent they have at that studio. It started off nice and small, but now you have a ton of Crystal Dynamics devs over there from the Tomb Raider series. You have people from Naughty Dog who've worked on The Last of Us, Uncharted, a number of those different games that are critically acclaimed, do extremely well, win game awards every year. You have people from Insomniac also coming from the PlayStation side, Sony Santa Monica from God of War. I believe you have a couple people over from the Halo side as well. Playground Games with Forza. There's some people that came over from that franchise. So you have a ton of different people at this studio under the Initiative umbrella. And now we know their first project, they're going to be coming back with Perfect Dark. Again, critically acclaimed when it came out on the N64, extremely well, popular-wise, and now we're kind of getting a reboot for it. It had a soft reboot in the 360 generation, now getting a full, completely reimagined reboot here, where we'll see Joanna Dark in a little bit of a new light, as well as a new backstory, because just from that trailer alone, we can kind of take away that it comes a little bit from a kind of like a geothermal issue, a little bit of stuff going on around the planet. So it's not just necessarily these corporations have come up in today's economy. I believe the original game was set in 2020. Now you're looking at something that has been more of an environmental change that has forced people to look toward these corporations. And it's going to be a little bit more of a deeper story in that sense, as well as just so many legendary devs behind this game. So again, the expectations are still extremely high. I think the trailer looked good for concept wise, but now they just got to deliver. To have this big of a studio with this much talent involved, it's got to be a big game. So hopefully we see more from that in the near future. A couple other ones that stood out, John. I think, let's see, Dead Space. So we do get kind of a new Dead Space. It's from the maker of the original Dead Space trilogy, the Callisto Protocol. This one's coming in 2022. It's going to be that same style of game. It's going to be a sci-fi horror game. I was never a big Dead Space fan personally. I never got into it. But overall, it's very well acclaimed. It's one of those kind of zombie games that does well, but it's a little bit different in the sense you can get creative with the way you form your weapons. So that one will be coming out from some of the original makers there as well. Vin Diesel in the Ark 2 announcement. So I'm not a huge Ark 1 player. I know you've played some of the original Ark. This looks like it brings a bit more story to the Ark franchise than I remember from seeing you play some.
Yeah. So Ark was more of an adventure, like almost like real world simulation. Like you had to survive. It was a survival game. You had to hunt for your food. You had to build your own shelter. You had to survive, T-Rexes coming out of nowhere and destroying your base, so on and so forth. But it does look like they went with like a story-based mode for Ark 2, where it seems like it may. Now, it could just be for marketing, points here that they had this story-esque kind of mode in the teaser. But if you are to believe that, there may be a story mode that kind of directs players where to go. You probably will still have the not free, like adventure mode, if you will, where it's that survival themed, trying to survive this world that you live on with a mixture of basic goods and materials and some sci-fi-ness mixed in there as well with that with the little transponder like thing that's like stuck into your wrist. I'm blanking on what it's called, but yeah, I mean, it looked very good. It was very interesting. I didn't realize it was Ark until I saw that transponder in the wrist, and I was like, oh, it's Ark. What do you know? So yeah, I think a lot of people were kind of surprised. Ark, the developers behind it, are not exactly known for putting out completed games. Ark has been around forever, still has a lot of bugs that they still haven't gone back and fixed. You have the whole Atlas controversy, where they released the water-based version of Ark, and they called it something else. When you look in the coding for it, it actually looks like it's just another map that was supposed to be in the original Ark game that they spun off, and it looks like they just charged people $30 for it. So it's kind of interesting that now all of a sudden Ark 2 comes out, and like there's all this new things like being promoted up front in this video, and it kind of has some Ark fans kind of questioning, like, well, hey, you have two games here that are incomplete with a lot of bugs, and here you are putting out another game. Justify to us why we need to spend another 30, 40, 50, 60 bucks for your new game when the last two still have a lot of issues. So it'd be kind of interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, it's one of those big questions out there. Like, what is Arc 2 going to be? Is it going to be more of a single player story mode focused? Maybe it takes the multiplayer from Arc 1 and combines that with kind of like a story mode, kind of a la what we might see with Overwatch 2 as well. So who really knows for now? At least we know Vin Diesel will be in it. For those big Vin Diesel fans out there, he will be a major character in Arc 2. Last thing for the Game Awards, John, to touch on, because there are a number of different games released. We're not going to go over every single one. I think the next biggest thing is the fact we do see Master Chief heading to Fortnite. So now Fortnite having one of the biggest IPs in PlayStation history in Kratos from God of War also adds Master Chief from Halo on the Microsoft Xbox side. So two of the most legendary IPs of all time finding their way to a game that just never seems to go down, John. This one continuing to lead chart after chart. Fortnite, as it just continues to go on its way up, now adding Kratos, now adding Master Chief. You're going to pull PlayStation fans in from that. You're going to pull in Xbox fans from that. I know a number of people who just downloaded just to play Master Chief. And here we are, Fortnite finding a way to find another surge. And on top of that, finding ways to not only open up crossplay between these platforms, with PlayStation and Xbox both opting into crossplay for Fortnite, as well as the Nintendo Switch, who's a little bit more friendly in that to begin with. Now we also see IPs from both of them, IPs that have been guarded for many, many years, have not been in anything else really, finding their way into Fortnite. So again, the gates being opened by Epic and Fortnite. Crazy stuff there. So we'll see if anything else comes from that. But for now, we're going to transition over to WoW. John, I know you've been stuck in the mall here and there for a couple nights. Blizzard's World of Warcraft Shadowlands broke the record for fastest selling PC game of all time. And it held it for 2 full days. WoW Shadowlands sold 3.7 million copies on day one, beating Diablo's first day with 3.5 million. So it did outsell Diablo 3 by 0.2 million there overall to get that title. But then a couple days later, 2 days, in fact, Cyberpunk 2077, it happened. It went on break, and then it came out with its pre-order numbers, which sold $4.2 million even before the official launch day. So Cyberpunk sales alone ended up re-breaking that record once again by a hefty 0.5 million right here to make it happen. And I mean, Cyberpunk is a huge release. WoW Shadowlands a huge release. And again, video game numbers, it feels like records being broken all over the place this year in video games. But once again, PC record sales, WoW breaking it, and then Cyberpunk shortly after.
Yeah, but as the player base, which game they're more satisfied with? Yeah.
I mean, there are plenty of people who are satisfied with Cyberpunk. But before we get to that, what are your thoughts on WoW breaking records here? Is Shadowlands that good, or is the hype just unreal?
No, I think Shadowlands is that good. If you played in the era of Battle for Azeroth and you were turned off by World of Warcraft, this is an expansion that reminds me a lot of Legion. This is an expansion that reminds me a lot of Mists of Pandaria. This is an expansion that reminds me a lot of Wrath of the Lich King. This goes to support my 2-team developer theory for Blizzard when it comes to expansions, because it seems like it constantly alternates. But it's great. It's fantastic. The storyline is incredible. It gives you several different ways to level your character. You're not, you're not stuck doing it one way. You do have to play through the story mode at least once by going through the main story quests. But after that, if you have alts and you don't want to do that again, guess what? You can just do world quests to level up or dungeons and whatever. Like, you don't have to play the campaign all over again. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of things that they put in there, like different mounts to earn, different ways of earning it. The world quests are great. Like, everything about Shadowlands is what people that have played World of Warcraft for years have wanted. So far it's great. I mean, yeah, there's hiccups here and there. There's certain things people don't like. That's with any game. But overall, like, when you take a look at the launch of BFA versus the launch of Shadowlands, it's night and day. It's not even close. Shadowlands is amazing.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, sir. And apparently a lot of other people do, with it selling 3.7 million copies on day one. Again, not sure what those numbers look like now because it has been out for a little while. We could probably get eventually some subscriber numbers, how they held up from November to December, how many more people have bought into the expansion after seeing the social media craze about it, as well as number of friends playing. So I'm sure those numbers have gone up. I just don't know how far they've gone up to. But again, Cyberpunk, even before launch, breaking that record once again with 4.2 million in their sales in pre-orders alone prior to that official launch. But Cyberpunk has not only had highs, John, it has had a number of lows as well. And I'm curious to get chat's ideas on some of these, as well as their views if anyone has played Cyberpunk out there. So Cyberpunk, looking at it overall, their shares, they are publicly traded over in Poland. The shares are not doing great. The stock market is not happy with what CD Projekt Red has put out. They are down 29% over there just on the run up to launch day. After launch day, it has continued to fall as well. I think it's down even below 40% now from when we were leading up to that launch of Cyberpunk it was as well. So it's messy. It's not looking good. Stakeholders and stockholders are not feeling great about this launch. Again, this is a game that took somewhere around like 7 or 8 years to develop, at least since it was announced. On top of that, whatever idea storming and brainstorming was done ahead of time, concept art, et cetera, et cetera. Now we're here. We're up at Cyberpunk. It's been released. Some people are critically acclaiming it as one of the best games they've ever seen, the best game of the generation. Other people are like, I cannot believe this was released with all these bugs. The delays did absolutely nothing. So you get a lot of mixed reviews on that. On the flip side, Cyberpunk and their developers, CD Projekt Red, have come out and stated the earnings. Cyberpunk 2077, with the pre-orders in mind, again, record-breaking pre-orders for PC, and overall as a game, their sales came through and exceeded the full cost of development and marketing for the game. So we're talking 8 some years of development here, all already negated within pre-orders. They made that much money back and they were profitable on day one. So stock, again, going down, money going up, extremely high. I mean, to make back 8 years of development, that's paying all of your developers. That's paying all of the marketing materials or whatever deals were done in that area. That is everything all made back prior to launch based on pre-orders alone. That's freaking amazing when it comes to games. Now, on top of that, there have been issues and there has been some shady stuff going on with CD Projekt Red. And John, I'm excited to hear your viewpoint on some of this. So they have come out and announced there will be major patches coming out in January 2021 and February 2021. The big patches for the current gen or last gen consoles, the Xbox One and PS4, will be happening in February 2021. Until then, depending who you talk to, those versions of the game are practically unplayable, whether it be because bugs continue to crash the system. I saw someone on Twitch earlier who was talking about he was trying to play it on his PS4 and it crashed 15 times within the first day, like 24 hours of gameplay. I mean, it's crazy. But on top of that, you look at the pictures. If you guys have seen screenshots, some of them are a little moved around by fanboys. If it's like a crazy Xbox Series X screenshot or PS5 screenshot, it's most likely not from those consoles. It's probably from a PS4 or Xbox One. And they look terrible. There's no textures on a lot of these. The graphics, the images, it's not processing right on these consoles. Now, if you look at the PC or the current gen consoles, the Xbox Series X or PS5, they look much, much better. PC especially looks absolutely fantastic. But now in the run up to everything on these old gen consoles, the Xbox One and the PS4, CD Projekt Red did not allow the media to review these and mention anything before launch. So that is really where this controversy stems from. Not only are they releasing these games that a lot of people don't feel are at the quality they should be, but they did not allow anyone to say anything about it, and they kept that behind a closed door. So, John, kicking things over to you, I think start with that and then go from there.
Well, really, to understand why I'm irritated about this whole thing, like, look, we praised this developer for being transparent in regards to the delays. That is something that we're like, hey, look, we appreciate you being open about it. You said, hey, look, this game isn't ready. It's great. Again, in the era of players shelling out $60, $70, $80 for a video game that is 50% done, it's tiring. I don't want to have to wait an additional 3 years, but yeah, you're going to make me pay full price and wait 3 years until the game is fully completed. I don't like that. So they come out and they delay it several times, and the gaming community overall is pretty positive about it. They're like, hey, look, we appreciate the transparency. Thanks for letting us know what's going on. We still are hype about this game. And then you go and do this. You completely lock behind a closed door what the last generation version of this game is going to look like. Because what good reason other than you knew how bad it was going to be? I mean, I can't think of any other reason why you wouldn't want anybody to see what your game looks like when it's supposed to be multi-generational, when it's supposed to be able to be played on the Xbox One, on the PlayStation 4, as well as the next gen, new gen consoles, and on PC. Like, yes, I get it. You essentially have to make 3 versions of the game. You have to make the current PC generation, current console generation, and the last generation on console as well. So I get it. You have to make 3 versions of the game. But the difference between PC, Xbox Series X and S, and PlayStation 5 versus the difference of last gen, it's not even close. It's not even close. I mean, it's awful. It's not even on Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 level. They knew how bad this was. That's why they didn't let anybody see it. That's why they didn't let anyone demo it or take pictures or anything. They knew. There's no other reason to hide a terrible product other than the fact that you know it's going to be bad and you're just waiting for that pre-sale to come in. You're waiting for the initial launch day profit to come in, and then you'll deal with the backlash after you already have all that money. Now, that being said, they did release a statement saying that if you're unhappy with it, you can process a refund. Now, I hope if you're going to do that, I hope you bought the digital version because it's a lot easier to refund that than a physical disc. Because last time I checked, GameStop, Best Buy, Walmart, any other place that you buy a physical copy of any kind of technology or any kind of CD or DVD, once it is open, you cannot return it. So I'm going to be interested to see how that actually happens. So yes, I think the amount of hate they're getting right now, especially for last gen, is 100% justified. Fanboys aside, trying to play it off like, PlayStation was the PlayStation 4 was better than the Xbox X, or pardon me, the Xbox One last gen, and they're like, oh, look how terrible it is. Look, throw those people off to a side, ignore them. They hit it. They hit it for a reason. You add that with the delays. You're sitting there like, you've delayed it for this long, and you still have all these issues. Even on the next gen and PC versions of this game, there's still plenty of issues. There's tons of issues that any other developer would have said, hey, look, this game's not ready to be released. Look, it took you 8 years. What's delaying it another 6 months to get it fixed? Why do I have to wait another 3-4 months to have your game not brick my system? But yet you charge me full price still. But yet your game is not compatible with my console that you said it would be, whether it's last gen, current gen, or PC. That's not my problem as a gamer. That's your problem as a developer. And if you're going to demand full price for a game, at least have the decency to show us what it looks like. Have the decency to be upfront with us. Don't just demand $60 and go full No Man's Sky on us again. Like, there's no point to go down that road and piss gamers off, okay? Because I hope people do refund this game, at least until the point that they fix it, because that sends a message to this developer that you cannot do this where you essentially lie about how bad your game is going to be, then expect everyone to be fine with it paying full price. That is, to me, that's completely dishonest, and you can't do that anymore. You shouldn't be doing it in the first place. I can't stand it.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. If you look at anyone who's played it on PC or even Xbox Series X or PlayStation 5, they'll mention there's bugs here and there, but overall, they've really enjoyed the gameplay. Graphically, it looks very good. Again, the Xbox Series X and PS5 versions still don't have the optimization for the next-gen console patch either. That one coming out in early January 2021. So that will make it look even prettier for those people who might want to be diving in a bit later, or who maybe are looking for their first playthrough again, or their second playthrough, I guess, of the game as well. So that's just going to get better and better. For those PS4 and Xbox One owners, it's just not looking too great. Like, yes, February 2021, why did I buy a game in December if it's not even going to really be playable necessarily until February, 2 months later? It's kind of like, that's kind of rough. So at that point, you could see more people adopting new consoles, whether it be for Christmas or Hanukkah or some kind of present being given then. Maybe they buy it early in 2021 with the restocking coming in. It's just one of those things where maybe that version is not quite what they're looking for. Now, I could be wrong, but I think Cyberpunk is one of those games that does upgrade automatically. So if you do buy the Xbox One or PS4 version, I think you do get the Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S / PS5 version for free. So there is that if you do end up being one of those people who gets that next-gen console within that 2-month window. So a little bit of a leeway there. And again, as John said, they are accepting refunds. I've heard for the most part, people are getting refunds pretty smoothly through Xbox. PlayStation is not giving any refunds. I don't know if that was just miscommunicated right now between the devs and the PlayStation support team or what exactly is going on there. But a lot of people are posting screenshots where PlayStation support staff were saying, hey, we do not offer refunds for this game after said terms and conditions or whatever are accepted and da-da-da-da. So as of right now, I don't think there's been a single PlayStation refund accepted. I would say there's probably about 80% of Xbox Ones have been accepted. So you're definitely going to have a better shot on the Xbox side than the PlayStation side, at least for the current moment. PC-wise, I haven't heard of anyone needing to return it. So I think PC overall is looking pretty good. As far as the in-game goes, John, like you were saying, I think that could be an issue as well. Amazon has a pretty decent return policy. When it comes to like your GameStops and such, I don't know exactly how those are all going to play out.
Yeah, it's a big question mark. It's something that shouldn't be happening. It's 2020. You know, if you're going to develop a next generation game and you're going to have, you know, the balls to delay it twice in a very heated gaming market, it just, to me, it doesn't make sense to go through all that effort, through all that scrutiny, which turned out to be positive, and then release this product that you have to know. I refuse to accept that nobody didn't see this coming. You know, with Cyberpunk, you know, it just, to me, it doesn't make sense. You know, you knew exactly what you're putting out there. You have video game testers that give you feedback. You have people that test last gen, current gen, and PC version of this game. You knew of all these bugs when you launched. But the problem was they built it up off the hype. They got the money, they got what they wanted, they got the records, they got the income. But the problem is it was such a bad product. You know, the game could be fantastic. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying the game itself is bad. What I'm saying is the way the developer handled the situation, how bad last gen's version of this game is, all the glitches and errors and everything that's on the current gen and PC. I'm sorry, but like, you as a consumer should not be happy if you're dropping $60, $70 for a game and it glitches out and it doesn't work. You know, you should not be happy with that. Again, the game itself could be completely fine, but those glitches, if it makes it unplayable, if it just breaks your system, why? Fix it. Just fix it. You've already delayed it twice. Delay it a third time. People will understand. Show what the last generation was. People would definitely understand that you need more time to get it fixed.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's my biggest issue here. Like, even if the PC version was ready to go, I almost feel like it would be okay to say, hey, let's launch the PC version. Console guys, you're not going to be happy if we give you the product that we have right now. Let us have some time to work out some bugs. It'll be coming February 2020 or 2021. So that could have been an option. Again, they could have delayed the whole thing. I think people are at the point now where like delays are inevitable. We're in this COVID year. There's been, I think it's like 25, 30 different games have been delayed. You have big ones like Cyberpunk, Halo Infinite. You've seen a number of other big titles get delayed as well as little smaller indie titles. It's one of those things that's going to happen with the current state of the world. And I don't think Cyberpunk pushing it back a little bit further would have been the end of the world. Do I think it's going to be pristine for the next gen versions in January? Not at all. Do I think the original versions, the current gen or last gen versions will be great in February? No. There's just way too many bugs and way too many textures that are just not put in place in that game. If you want to play it right now, highly recommend PC. Other than that, I've heard the Xbox Series X version is the next best and the PS5 version just slightly below that. Then after PS5 and Xbox Series X, it is a very hard drop off. And your next biggest console is the Xbox One X, which is decent, but not great. And then it's very, very far off if you go all the way to launch consoles. It's like very, very far. Do not buy far. So I would stay away for those for now. Wait to see what the patches look like. Personally, I think you're probably better off waiting for a next-gen console experience, even if that is quite a while down the road, just from the way these games look in screenshot comparisons. Again, I have not played the game itself, so I don't really know how the play is different. But if you just look at the quality of textures and screenshots, there is a very, very big difference between last-gen consoles and the current / next-gen consoles, depending the way you look at it. I think we've talked about Cyberpunk enough, though. after John and I get a chance to play it, we can give a little bit more feedback on that, as well as watching more and more streams on it. I feel like the story itself is quite creative. There's a lot of good depth to it, a lot of good character design. From what I've seen, the customization within weapons is pretty cool. Night City looks awesome. Definitely some weird bugs as far as the look of characters, let's say, as well as some different things that can happen in the game. But overall, I think the game itself, story-wise, has a lot of potential. And I think as they add DLCs and then multiplayer a year or two down the road, there could be some really cool things that come out of Night City. Moving forward into something else that we're not going to spend a ton of time on, but it is important to touch on, and that is Xbox, Nintendo, and PlayStation announcing a shared commitment to safer gaming. This was a statement that came out earlier today from Dave McCarthy, the corporate vice president of Xbox operations. Since then, we've seen a couple other articles from the other two that have come out as well. The biggest thing here is that they're adopting some similar pillars. The following principles guide their work. Prevention, empower players and parents to understand and control gaming experiences. Partnership, we commit to partnering with the industry regulators, law enforcement, and our communities to advance user safety. Responsibility, we hold ourselves accountable for making our platforms as safe as possible for all players. Those are going to be the three pillars that all three of these companies, PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo /Microsoft/Sony, do moving forward in the realm of gaming. Every certain decision based around safety or user development or management is going to be based on these pillars. John, I think the biggest thing here is not that these pillars are created, not that we now kind of have a rubric for our school teachers out there as far as how these things should play out, but the biggest thing is that all three companies are coming together with a unified approach. This is no longer Sony, I don't want to support crossplay because I don't trust Nintendo or Xbox saying this or Nintendo saying that. It's purely the three of us are going to come together. We've come up with these pillars, and our communities, our ecosystems together will adopt these pillars and will strengthen toward the safety of all of our gamers based upon them.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at it one of two ways. You can look at it as three major corporations in video games, the three largest console makers out there. Whether you want to say the Switch is a console or not, we'll leave that to debate. But three of the largest video game console makers out there come together because they want to promote a safe and secure environment for gamers online. If there's one thing, Joey, that you and I have seen in our years in the gaming environment, the gaming world, if you will, is that there are a lot of toxic players out there. There are a lot of people that just like to talk smack, and there's also a lot of weirdos out there. That I think that's one of the big things that parents freak out about is when their kid hops on to play Fortnite and they're, paired up with three randos online. That's exactly what they are. They're three random people you don't know. So you don't know who your kid is talking to. You don't know anything that's going on. So it makes sense for a parent to be a little worried about that. Now, it's great that these three companies are coming together to try to create this environment that is going to be safe for gamers of all ages. And that's one thing they talk about is gaming's for everyone. There's no one group of gamers that owns gaming. It's not your FPS players. It's not your RPG. It's not your MOBAs. It's not your anything. Gaming is for everyone, regardless of age, gender, religion, creed, sexual orientation. It doesn't matter. Gaming's for everyone, period. End of story. And it's a safe space for everyone. You're there to play a game. You're there to enjoy socializing with other people while you play the game. And it should be safe. So all three coming together, it makes sense. Also, Joey, how bad would this look if Nintendo didn't agree to this? How bad would this look if Sony didn't agree to this? How bad it would look if Xbox didn't agree to this? So yes, there is a reason all three are coming together from a publicity standpoint, because it would look absolutely awful if one of them were missing, because then it sends that message of like, well, Xbox and PlayStation can do it. Why can't you, Nintendo? Or Nintendo and PlayStation can do it. Why can't you, Microsoft? Silence from a large company in a situation like this portrays an image. Whether you say something or not, it sends that message. So yeah, all three coming together makes sense, mainly because the public image would be absolutely horrific for a company if they didn't. But I would like to think they did it for a positive reason.
Yeah, I mean, you make a great point. And the last time we saw that was with cross-platform capabilities. I mean, Microsoft, Nintendo, and PC said we're going to be fully cross-play between all of us. Sony said, we don't know about that. We don't quite trust Nintendo and Microsoft. We're going to wait it out and see how we feel like it. We'll demo it with Fortnite. Again, they did get a lot of negative criticism for that move. It wasn't anything like shatter the console market or change everything around there, but it was some negative publicity. So very well could be the case here. But overall, I feel like this is a good way for the communities, especially in an age where we see more and more crossplay becoming available. This is a way for them to unify those beliefs on 3 single pillars. Couple esport changes. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the LCS and wrap up today's show. For the first change, we have IEM Katowice 2021. It will not take place in Spodek due to the ongoing pandemic and will be played without an in-person audience at another European location. So we're looking at it not happening there in Spodek. It's going to get moved a little bit. It will still be taking place, but again, no in-person audience, and it will be in a different location. So sorry, fans who wanted to attend. It is still not going to happen. It didn't happen in 2020, not going to happen in 2021. The event will still take place, though, so you can catch that online. Most of the dates for the events for IEM were unchanged overall. Outside of that location change, we did see one date change, though, and that is the Warcraft 3 Championship, which will now be March 4th through the 7th. So if you're interested in checking that one out, please do note that date change as well. Following its winter major, the Gears esports scene has made a major change as well. It sent out a survey to fans as well. Is your camera freaking out, by the way, or is it just me?
No, the camera's not freaking out because this camera is not as good as my other one. Anytime I change something on my monitor, it will change the lighting. It is fantastic.
I keep getting so distracted because I see this blinking and I'm like, what is happening?
It's me pulling up the next topic is what's happening.
Got it. So the Gears esports scene, it sent out a survey to all of its fans as well as its pro players and coaches and organizations. Hey guys, this is the current state of the scene as far as the competitive mode and format. What are your thoughts on us exploring these other modes and formats? They got that survey back and they have decided to make a major change. The starting roster size will be moving from 5 to 4. This is something we saw in Call of Duty recently as well, as that change going to PC for them too. I believe Gears is still on console, but they will be making that player change at least from 5 to 4. There's going to be some shifts based on that. Some teams will get relegated and have to find their way back up into the top. A lot of that reason being that they believe with some teams cutting down to 5, some players will remain on as subs, while other teams and players will end up combining into other teams potentially to compete for that spot. Further, they're going to be using an escalation beta playlist. So the current playlist is going to get a few changes, and they're also testing a few other modes. But for now, they're going to lock it in for the rest of the season with the escalation beta playlist as well as a 4v4 mode. So we'll have to report back on how that ends up going. Moving into the final topic of today, and that is the LCS. John, they have announced some new changes for the upcoming season. What are the changes, and what do you think they're going to have as far as impact for those people who might be spectators, players, etc.?
I'm actually going to pull it up here on the website so everyone can see some of these things. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the great news is the spring split is not back. It's somewhat relevant now. It's not completely worthless. You know, Joey, I mean, as much as I enjoy having 2 splits, as much as I enjoy 2 LCS title opportunities per year, as much as I enjoy the championship point system that made spring split relevant, I think this is a nice compromise. So essentially, what we're looking at is the LCS is going to be going to 5 games a day, 3 days a week. We're talking Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's going to be a Friday night league experience starting at 3 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Eastern. Saturday and Sunday is going to be 1 p.m. Pacific time and 4 p.m. Eastern time. So you're getting 5 games a day, 3 days a week. You're getting 15 games every week, every weekend. So that's going to be an increase. They're looking at 3 round robins. So you're going to be playing every team 3 times. So it is going to be an expanding of the play scale, or the amount of games you play. So it's going to allow for, you know, those teams that start hot that kind of cool off towards the end. They can't cruise to a first place victory. And it's kind of like, well, congratulations. You've gotten through 10 games. Guess what? Now you've got another X amount to go through. So, you know, I think it'll be good for competition overall, especially as the game evolves and patches and updates. It should be interesting to see how that plays out as well. But I think what is really interesting, this is what makes Spring Split relevant again, is that while they're not going back to the championship-based point system, they are taking into account overall record for who makes it into the playoffs and goes to Worlds. So they'll be taking the record from spring and the record from summer to actually combine that together to see who is going to be going on into the playoffs and then going on into Worlds. At least that's the way I'm understanding it from how I've read it. So, I mean, if it's wrong, Joey, feel free to chime in here, but from their website, that is my interpretation of it.
No, I agree with it, and I posted it in chat for anyone who wants to check out the full set as well. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. I think there's a lot of really good changes here. From a viewership perspective, you get 3 full days of league. From a viewership perspective, you also see that Spring Split will now be counting in the LCS, which was kind of lackluster this past season where it really didn't have any effect outside of what they get MSI, and that was the only thing out of it. So as a player, that also gives you more motivation to play to your best in the spring, similar to what we see in all the other major leagues like LCK, LPL, LEC. So as LCS, that spring was just super lackluster this past year, and I think this gives more reason to actually pay attention and compete within it. Now, for me, the biggest thing here is the player perspective. If you're looking at players, they're already going quite a bit within a week. Now you're looking at 3 match days, which potentially at the end of that 3rd match day leaves them with just a couple of days before the next set of matches. One of those is going to be a break day where they have off. Then you're going to have 3 days of scrim/practice/preparation for whatever your matches are coming up. And then you go right back into matches. So overall, the players are going to end up, the players and coaching staff are going to end up with 3 preparation days to really get their ideas in set, discuss those and really transfer that information to the players, get the players' feedback, scrim on that, and all get it together and make it happen in time for a match 3 days later, or depending when you end up getting that time to practice, maybe 2 days, maybe 1 day later. So it's just going to be very crunchy for the players. And I think that's going to be one thing that could translate either really well, where we see them extremely prepared come Worlds time, where they're like, oh, we're used to crunching really quick. Group stage is going to be no issue because we're so used to this format. Or it's going to come down to a very messy spring split and summer split where players don't really find their rhythm, where teams are really struggling to really compete on a team level because they can't get used to their players. They're jumping so quickly and trying to absorb this information at such a rapid pace, not having that extra day or two, where now they're just not having the ability to get that together for scrims. Scrims are looking scruffy. Then from there, you're going into the main split and in the regular games, and they're just not coming out great because that preparation time being cut is definitely going to have an effect. So again, I think it could have a positive effect when it comes to international events like Worlds, where time is really of the essence when it comes to the group stage. You have to prepare for 3 games really quickly. Then you have a week of time to prepare for 3 more games. And that could be huge when it comes to the group stage. But when it comes to those more thought out quarterfinals, where you have one opponent that you're really digging deep into and you have all this time to prepare, how will they utilize that versus what they're used to? And I think for the coaching staff and players, that's my biggest question mark with this new format for the LCS. Anything else you want to touch on for that new format before we wrap up today's episode, sir?
They like to use the LCS as an absolute testing pool for everything. There's going to be a lot of different things if you're an LCS fan that's going to be thrown at you this year, including the lock-in tournament, if you will. That's going to be taking place before the start of the spring split that starts January 15th. That is going to be for a charity event. They're throwing that in there. Then again, 3 full days of league action. That's going to be a minimum 15 hours of league. It feels like every weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The mid-season showdown, the way they're going to be handling lean playoffs, and stage winner and split winners. A lot of things are changing. Again, it's a lot to take in. We definitely recommend you check out the link that we put there in chat. If you're listening on the podcast version, check out LvLesports.com. It's on there for you as well. There is a lot to digest and break down into these changes, but the big thing is that the biggest complaint viewers and players had was that the spring split didn't mean anything last year. Well, now the spring split has some meaning back. Not as much, but again, if you tank in the spring now, it will affect your overall record and how you get into the playoffs and possibly qualify for Worlds. So again, spring has some relevancy once again.
Absolutely. So look forward to those changes. Look forward to that preseason tournament. If you guys have played Cyberpunk, let us know your thoughts on it as well as what version you are playing on. You can do that on Twitter. We'll give you that here in just a little bit, but we'd love to hear feedback on that as well.
Well, Nation, that will do it for this edition of LvLUp Live. Before you go, head over to patreon.com/OTN and consider becoming a part of the Overtime Network. In return, you'll get exclusive access to content that nobody else in the world can get unless they are a part of OTN Media. If you have not already done so, make sure you follow the show here on Twitch to catch the next episode of LvLUp Live. If you listen to our show on the podcast version, leave us a review. LvLUp Podcast is available on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, and Google Play. We would love to hear from you. In fact, we love to hear from our listeners and viewers so much. We have other ways for you to reach out to us. Joey, what are those ways?
LvLUp Nation, head on over to Twitter and find us at LvLUp Live. That is LvLUP Live. In addition to that, you can follow our umbrella company, OTN Media, as well on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. On Twitter and Facebook, that's at OTN Media. On Instagram, at OTN_media. Last but not least, find us on Twitch, twitch.tv/OTN Media. LvLUp records 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday and Thursday nights, as well as other streams throughout the week.
All right, make sure you tune in this upcoming Thursday, December 17th, as we cover the latest and greatest in gaming and esports news. Do your ears and eyes a favor, hit that sub or follow button here on Twitch or the podcast feed to know when the next episode of LvLUp Live is ready for your viewing pleasures. We will catch you all on Thursday. Have a great week. Remember, be nice to your fellow gamers online, and as always,
Level up.
Don't wanna think of all the rules that you can pick and choose. I wanna make you feel like da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Talking like, ooh, we lost it. You don't seem to know